Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Estate Planning and Elder Law Show, hosted by me, yours truly, Jeffrey Bellomo, where we discuss all things estate planning and elder law, and, well, hey, anything else we want to talk about. And on today's Red Wagon and Estate Planning and Elder Law Show, we're going to talk solely about estate planning and elder law. At Bellomo Associates, we have been nothing but proud of our educational workshops that we have provided for years at our office. Many of you know that it all started for me when my family had a situation and we didn't know the answers. We didn't know where to look. We didn't know how to get them. And I vowed from when I started in my practice and on my own that I would never, ever let what happened to my family happen to other families, and that education should be free and that you should be able to know the answers to the questions well and long before you actually need them, so that you're learning it ahead of time rather than when you are in crisis and you're not thinking clearly. And it has been going wonderfully for my career over 20 years, and Bellomo Associates is offering free educational workshops in the estate planning context, the Medicaid crisis context, as well as special needs, and in cases where people pass away. We are also have probate and trust administration workshops as well to explain to the executor what to expect, as well as kind of what are the roles and responsibilities and potential liabilities that they may have. So we are certainly all about education, and we have also been revolutionizing the workshops and the estate planning industry and elder law industry across the country. And we have been perfecting and working with clients on making that process such a way that is better for them, also at a price point that is better for them, which is cost effective, and providing them the information as well as the details that they need to truly feel like they understand, and also be able to get it at a price point that they can afford. So we are extremely proud in the estate planning context what we have been able to do with our workshop. So we are hosting 3 secrets to protect your family and their legacy, and we offer them on pretty much a weekly basis in York and Lancaster. And we also have Workshop in a Wagon, where we take the 3 Secrets workshop on the road, and we'll go to different locations all over the area, and we'll host the 3 Secrets workshop and then continue through the process, which we will discuss on this podcast today, and allow people in other areas in Pennsylvania to be able to get the same state-of-the-art planning that we are doing here in York and Lancaster in other parts. So we are certainly providing community education to the highest degree in the estate planning and crisis planning context. Specifically in the estate planning context, in the 3 Secrets workshop, what has been so revolutionary is because of a client that came through our process and did the workshop, came in for the free consultation, and then ultimately asked for 2 additional free consultations, and then ended up not hiring us, and ultimately ended up losing $500,000 of assets and went from about $1.5 million to $1 million. I listened and I heard his sort of frustrations and kind of where he was coming from the heart, which was, yeah, I definitely did not do anything, and that is on me. But ultimately, all I heard was the cost. All I heard was all of this information about something that I didn't necessarily understand, and ultimately did, not what I should have done, which was the asset protection planning, and ultimately lost $500,000 because of that decision. But certainly put a little bit of, fire, in my belly in order to figure out a way to change it, to figure out a way that we didn't have to do all of the estate planning meetings one-on-one when all we were doing was educating. And education can be from the front of the room. So in the 3 Secrets, which is the estate planning workshop, we are educating deeply in the area of estate planning. What are the 3 secrets to protect your family? Essentially why you don't necessarily have to be worried about federal estate taxes anymore, and why that's a thing of the past. Why our biggest sort of crisis looming that we have is healthcare costs and how our system is broken because Medicare doesn't provide what we think it will. That is health insurance. But if you end up having a long-term care situation and you had a stroke or dementia and you're not able to rehabilitate, essentially you're going to be going private pay in a nursing facility essentially almost immediately. And in the best case scenario, you're getting up to 100 days of rehabilitation, which in a lot of cases, that's good, but it's certainly not the longer term, bigger issue. And we are finding families literally going broke and just not knowing what to do or where to turn. And that 3 secrets is kind of giving them the peek behind the curtain. Here's what you need to know. Here's what you need to be prepared for. Here's what you shouldn't be concerned with anymore. And then ultimately, at the end of the workshop, we invite them back to another free workshop that is about 2 to 2.5 hours. So at the end, everybody who comes through our process will have at least 4 to 4.5 hours of free estate planning education. And it has been going phenomenally well. The feedback has been incredible. And the thing that is just standing out to me is how many people are saying, at the end of those 4.5 hours, I understood it way better than I ever did. And partly that's just because you're hearing another workshop, you're hearing it again. What I've said for years is when you're learning, estate planning and elder law, you are learning a foreign language, right? It's literally a new language that you have never heard before. And how many people pick up on Spanish, French, German in the first time that they learn it? Nobody, right? I mean, maybe there's some savants out there, but the truth is it takes repetition. It takes time. And so by just offering another free workshop, that eliminated the need for the second free consult, the third free consult, because they were asking all of the same questions, which was just basic educational questions. And now you've heard it for a second time. And in the second workshop that we call our blueprint meeting, not only are we educating again, but then we are also having people put pen to paper where they are answering questions on their own in their own private workbook, being taught from the front of the room as far as what are considerations, what are things you should be thinking about, what are possibilities, and then ultimately they're making their own decision on their own while there are other people, in the room filling in their own workbooks. And the feedback is just that it's going really well, and that the people who are in those rooms understand it better. It is personalized. There are the ability to ask private questions, it's very unique. Every single individual in the room will have a unique plan because the way that they answer the questions determines why it's unique to them, because not everyone is going to answer the questions the same way, of course, right? When you are designing an entire toolkit where you're getting everything, so you're getting the last will and testament, the financial power, the medical power, the living will, the revocable trust, the asset protection trust. When you're getting everything, you're not having to pick or to make decisions about something that you don't even know what it is that you're saying yes or no to, right? So I think back to the case of the gentleman who kind of opened my eyes, and it was, I did say no. I did not make the right decision. But in fairness to me, I didn't know what I was saying no to. And yes, you told me, and yes, you said the cost, and yes, you said what could occur, but nobody wants to think that it will happen to them. So please figure out a way that you can give it to everybody so that they don't have to make a decision, so that they do what's right for their family. Well, the biggest significance that's coming out of this model is that we were able to reduce the fees about 58%. So when you reduce fees by 58%, now you have people that were coming into the workshops that had a house, had some retirement assets, maybe a life insurance policy with some cash value. And at the old model and the old prices, they were never going to want to move forward with just being able to put a house in today. But with the new model and having it at a 58% less price, what we're finding over all these months and months and months of doing this is that people with being able to protect a house are absolutely doing it. With that price point, it is less than what we used to charge simply for a revocable trust. And now you're getting the revocable and the asset protection along with the will, the financial power, and the medical power. So just getting a house protected could protect in your family $500,000 to $750,000. So let me explain that. If I can get a house into the asset protection trust 5 years ahead of time, that move by itself provides such a huge advantage later, right? Watch this. We get the house into the trust. The people who create it, the grantors, are still able to live in it. They're able to sell it. They're able to buy another one. As long as they live in it 2 out of 5 years, they don't have to pay, as long as it's their primary residence, they don't have to pay the capital gains tax. And they can buy and sell these houses within the trust and have the assets protected. So let's say that one of the spouses ends up in a long-term care situation. As long as we're outside of 5 years from the day that the first house, the deed went into the trust, the house will be protected. Now, what we can do in this situation is, remember, if the husband is in the nursing home, the husband's retirement account counts as an available resource, right? The assets of the husband, the wife, the joint assets count as an available resource. So what we're able to do is sell the house in the trust. Stays in the trust, right? The money stays in the trust. Now the community spouse or the well spouse is allowed to buy another home because they're allowed to keep a primary residence. And let's just say it's a $400,000 home. I mean, I'm obviously just picking a random number, but they use the money in the retirement asset of the person in the nursing home that is an available resource, or of the assets that are available that they don't want to have to spend down, and they purchase, $300,000, $400,000 home, and voila, you have now protected not only the original primary residence, but another home using assets that would have been available that we would have had to liquidate and pay huge tax consequences on just to get it back to a spouse, or you just simply use the other assets. And now you have increased the wealth of the family, all because of the move of just getting the house in the trust at the beginning. The power of that move cannot be understated. So what this new model has done for us is, for the families that just had a house and retirement assets and didn't have a lot of other investable assets that they could put in the trust that they didn't require or need on a daily basis, you now can get those protected. And then by doing that, you have a play later when someone does need nursing home care to just add complete wealth to the family and be able to preserve assets. But it all starts with getting that house protected. And one of the other big questions that we've been getting that is a perfectly timed and great question is, okay, so I get the house protected, but what about those retirement assets? And I think that is one of the things that truly separates us from anyone else in the industry is that, yes, we are certainly, elder law attorneys and asset protection attorneys. And, I'm blessed to have a master's in tax and also a certified elder law attorney. But having that combination of the two is unique and seeing it from both sides. So one of the things that we have been preaching for years in our boot camps where we train financial professionals and healthcare professionals is, especially since the Secure Act, the biggest asset that a lot of people own is retirement, right? So let's say that a father provides to his son $1 million in a retirement asset. Under the old rules before the Secure Act, that son could stretch out those tax consequences over his life expectancy. So, his 42-year life expectancy, stretching out $1 million is not a huge tax consequence per year. But now they only have 10 years to pay it, which means you're stretching out $1 million asset over 10 years, which is $100,000 of ordinary income for 10 years, which means you've now got people in their 50s and 60s who are now in the highest tax brackets, 40%, because you're adding that $100,000 of ordinary income from this retirement asset that they now must liquidate. The parent is probably in a much lower tax bracket, fully retired in their 70s and 80s, versus the children in their 50s and 60s or highest wage earning years. So we're working with financial professionals and accountants and start liquidating it after the person attains the age of 59, And when they start doing this type of planning over the grantor's life expectancy, when they're in a lower tax bracket and when that makes sense at a rate that makes sense, but rather than put it in the Roth, what you're going to do is you're going to take that same money, put it into an asset that's invested with your advisor. So it stays with the advisor. They put it into whatever, stock, mutual fund, whatever they think makes sense for your investing purposes. And then it grows and grows. And you as the grantor, the person who created the trust, still get to work with the advisor and decide how to manage the money. It'll grow during your lifetime. At your death, it is included in your estate for inheritance tax purposes, which I have been preaching from the rooftops for years that we want the Pennsylvania inheritance tax. It's a nuisance. Why? Because you pay the 4.5%, but then the kids get to step up in basis and they avoid the capital gains tax. So by doing that, and remember, a Roth is included as inheritance tax, so you're still paying the same 4.5% on the same number. And because you're getting the step up in basis for the kids, voila, you just got tax-free growth, which is exactly what a Roth is. But in the Roth form, as a Roth, it is an available resource if you're in the nursing home. So my joke in workshops is, what is a Roth when you go into a nursing home? And I say, gone. G-O-N-E, gone. And everybody laughs. Take that same money after you take the piece out of the retirement asset and then invest it into whatever investment account you think is best with your advisor. Let it grow during your lifetime. Include it in the inheritance tax. Pay the 4.5%. Get the step up in basis. The kid gets the tax-free growth. But during life, it is asset protected after it's been funded for 5 years. So the company and the organization that I have been teaching for and working with and coaching attorneys actually trademarked it, called a Roth Alike Trust. And the reason is because you're getting the same increase. Remember, when stuff is in the trust and it's in an investment account, right? When do you pay the tax on it? Only when you take it out. So when you put it in this trust and let it grow during your life and get the step up in basis, the result is the same, the tax-free growth. But because it's in the trust, now you're getting that asset protection. So the magic with this workshop is you're getting it at a price point that is inexpensive, that anyone can do it, even if it is just to protect a primary residence. The value is there, and then it provides tons of play later if someone ends up in crisis. Then you also get the expertise of the law firm to work with the financial professionals to coordinate the plan of what is the process by which, once the person is 59 and a half, we do start slowly liquidating. We do start bringing down the value of the retirement assets. Not all at once, not ridiculous, not too fast, just very slow, in order to put us in a position that if you ended up needing long-term care, we wouldn't have to liquidate in 1 year and pay all the taxes in 1 year, which would then have Medicaid Part B premium increases, IRMA and all that crap. So we don't want to deal with any of that. So we just want to get ourselves in a position. That is provided in our maintenance program, which we are now calling the Red Wagon Club. And this new model that we've been doing for months and months now is way better than what we ever anticipated when we put out the first podcast and talked about doing it. It is revolutionizing the industry because the client feedback is with the feel of being the only one and getting the personal attention and having your own plan and your own workbook, but yet getting at a price point because there's other people in the room. And then the onboarding videos, getting access to the portal to be able to watch or look at your actual documents with watching the videos at the same time, and being able to have your advisors watch them, your accountants, your family members, being able to come to the one-to-one attorney review meeting with your questions, and then making changes, and then getting it signed, and then getting it funded, and having a process for funding where we're providing the instructions, we're providing the charts, the allocations, and we, even in our fee agreements, we are very clear that we have to have permission to speak to the financial professionals if there are questions, if they need anything, if there's any assistance that they require, because without permission, we can't do it. And we just want to get it up front because we want to have the ability to be able to do that. We are now finding that the trusts are getting funded. People who have a house are getting it in, and people who have rentals are definitely getting them in. And then we're having meetings with the financial professionals to determine if there are other assets that we could put in. But because the price point is there, it doesn't matter whether they actually decide to do it or not, because there's still enough value just in the house. So that stuff has been really exciting and really just positive and just incredible to know that we're able now to do it at a price point that people are seeing. Let's just get what we can get in ASAP, not overthink what else will go in immediately. And then we want to be part of the Red Wagon Club to be able to get ongoing advice on a regular basis. And knowing that you can call in, get access to people to be able to get answers. There are monthly speaker events as part of the Red Wagon Club. We have a national speaker coming in on digital planning. We have our social worker who's doing tons of long-term and life care planning seminars and workshops that we do private just for our maintenance and Red Wagon Club families. Annual picnics. Currently, they've been at the John Wright restaurant because we have a lot of clients in York and Lancaster, which is a perfect location, and families love that. We allow for document revisions, and most importantly, not only might you change documents because of family dynamics, but also because of maybe law changes, right? When the Secure Act changed, there was a lot that had to go into changing the language in every document and every trust. Bringing in those families and getting those changes done quickly and as part of the process, included in the maintenance family in the Red Wagon Club, there's tons of value in that. And then we also offer a 1% fee guarantee on administration services, which is absolutely incredible for a family to know that if I pass away, the attorneys aren't going to charge more than 1%. A lot of attorneys are charging, upwards of 5%. And that's a difference on $1 million estate between potentially a $50,000 fee and a $10,000 fee. And so the value simply there, plus in the future service discounts, like if somebody ends up needing a Medicaid application, is paying for itself. And the proof is in the pudding with the Red Wagon Club, because this is a family maintenance program that we have had around for 13 years. And the retention rate is upwards of 93 to 94%. And the families in the old model were actually committing to an entire year, whereas under the new model, it's just a 30-day notice requirement to get out at any time. So it is really allowing families to have security of knowing that not only will the plan work today, but it will also work tomorrow. Because that's the other takeaway that I have had, is how many documents I have looked at from attorneys who the form that they used in 1982 is the same form that they used in 2023. And I cannot begin to tell you how many laws have changed, how many just different types of drafting have occurred, new language, new specific requirements, specificity, what you're providing. One of the examples I give is, were digital assets a thing in 1982? And the answer is no. And we absolutely provide language in the powers of attorney. If a form was from 1982, there is zero chance that that language would be in there. And while we're on the topic, please, please, please make sure that you get a password list. If you have family members that you trust to provide for the digital passwords, because we are running into a situation when families die or a family member passes that they can't get access to it. So you either have to hire a forensics person to get it off of the computers, or you have to go through a formal estate process to simply get access to a password. If the person's alive and it's in the power of attorney, we can get it done during life. But when people are passing, it's really holding up things, and it's just a public service announcement that I wanted to say. But the value in having that stuff up to date cannot be understated, and we need to stop looking at estate planning as a single transaction. It needs to be a lifelong transaction so that it's always working, it's always up to date, and it's staying with the needs of the family. So it has just been an incredible boost of energy for me and for the firm, being able to figure out a way to have the and, right? So not only are we able to provide cutting edge information, documents, asset protection planning techniques, but also in a way that it's cost affordable for everybody to even just get that house. And then we can get some really complex planning when we start to talk about what to do with retirements and education on, instead of putting it in the Roth, putting it in the trust, in an investment with your advisor that will grow. You will get the tax-free growth, but you'll also get the asset protection. So we're just tweaking some things that a lot of people may understand from the past, and then doing it in such a way that we're getting it asset protected purely for people after death as well. Maybe it's the spouse, maybe it's the children, and that will be certainly on another podcast in more detail, although I've talked about it before. I truly believe that you should never leave assets outright to a spouse or to a child because you love them way too much. And if you would like to learn more about that, please come to the future episode of the Red Wagon Estate Planning and Elder Law Show, hosted by me, yours truly, Jeffrey Bellomo, where we will definitely cover that topic. I had a ton of fun today discussing everything about the workshops that we have been doing, how we're helping families, how we're able to get the house protected, and what that allows us to do later in the crisis situation, as well as complex advanced planning in regards to retirement assets. It has been a ton of fun to be with you. I look forward to seeing you at one of our workshops. If you're looking for one in York or Lancaster, please check us out on the web at www.bellomoassociates.com or give us a call, 717-845-5390. And as I said, we also have workshops in a wagon, and we are all over the area providing these on an as-needed basis. So please reach out to the office if you would like us to come to your area and provide the workshop in a wagon. We look forward to seeing you at one of our upcoming workshops of the 3 secrets to protect your family and their legacy at Bellomo Associates. Until next time, on the Red Wagon Estate Planning and Elder Law Show, see you real soon.